In the heart of West Africa, where the forest gives way to endless grasslands, rose an empire of thunder and fire, an empire born of myth, guided by gods, and ruled by kings who commanded both reverence and fear. This was Oyo, the Yoruba kingdom that became a superpower of Africa. Its cavalry thundered across the savannah. Its merchants linked deserts to oceans. Its kings held life and death in their hands. But its story is not only of glory, it is a story of betrayal, of curses, of collapse, and of survival. Tonight, we tell the full story. This is the Oyo Empire. All Yoruba stories begin at Alaafin, the city of the gods, the cradle of a people. The elders say, Ife ni Orisun, Oyo ni Ipa. Ife is the source, Oyo is the power. In Yoruba tradition, the world began when Oduduwa descended from the heavens. With him he carried a chain, a cock, and a handful of earth. He poured the earth upon the waters. The cock scratched it wide, and land was formed. That land was Alaafin, the sacred heart of the Yoruba world. From Alaafin came kings, priests, and knowledge. Ife was the spiritual center, the seat of art, bronze casting, and the mysteries of Ifa divination. Yet Oduduwa's children, warrior princes and princesses, would not remain. They spread outward, founding kingdoms, Benin, Ekiti, Kogi, and beyond. Among them was one prince who would change history, Oranminian. Oranmiyan, son of Oduduwa, warrior and wanderer. Some say he ruled in Benin, others say he fought in the far north. But one thing is certain, he carried with him the fire of conquest. When Oranmiyan journeyed northward from Ife, he came upon a land unlike the forests of his fathers. Here stretched open plains, rolling savanna, rivers cutting through fertile earth. This was a land made not for foot soldiers, but for horses. Oranmiyan founded a city here, Oyo Ile, the great Oyo. It would become the heart of an empire. The savannah gave Oyo strength, room for cavalry, space for expansion, crossroads of trade routes. A kingdom was born, not of forest mystery, but of thunderous speed and power. In Oyo, kingship was sacred. The Alaafin, Iku Babaye, the one who could command death. His authority was vast, yet it was never absolute. The Alaafin was balanced by the Oyo Mesi, the council of 7 chiefs led by the Basharun. They were the voice of the people, the guardians of law. If the Alaafin failed in his duty, they could present him with an empty calabash or parrot's eggs, a silent command to take his own life. And beyond them stood the Ogboni society, elders bound to the earth goddess. They were judges of morality, priests of balance, protectors of truth. This system, monarchy, council, and spiritual authority, gave Oyo its resilience. A king mighty, but not unchecked. A state powerful, but bound to justice.
Welcome to our ancestral lands.
Life in Oyo was rich with culture. The gods walked with the people. Sango, god of thunder, once a fiery Alaafin, now immortalized in storm and lightning. Ogun, god of iron, patron of warriors and blacksmiths. Oranmila, master of wisdom and divination. Families lived in compounds. Fathers, mothers, children, and ancestors remembered in shrines. Women held power in markets as traders, priestesses, and mothers of kings. Filled markets. Oyo was more than soldiers and kings. It was a people of faith, art, and law. A people whose empire was yet to thunder across the savannah. But beyond Oyo's borders, opportunities awaited. The horse would become Oyo's weapon, the plains, its battlefield, and soon the empire would rise. The land gave Oyo its greatest gift, the horse. From northern trade routes came cavalry stock, strong, swift, and unyielding. Where forest kingdoms marched on foot, Oyo thundered across plains with speed and terror. Out of this strength was born the Eso Ikoi, Oyo's elite warriors, bound by an unbreakable code, they swore never to retreat in battle, never to betray their honor. It was said, "Ikoy eso ki sare mole," and Eso never flees into hiding. These warriors trained from youth. They mastered the bow, the spear, and the thunder of hooves. When Oyo's cavalry charged, the earth shook beneath them. It was the cavalry that transformed Oyo from a kingdom into an empire. Oyo's kings, the Alaafins, led their people into expansion. Alaafin often ran, strengthened Oyo's hold on the northern frontiers. Alaafin Abipa, remembered as the cautious one, restored the capital to Oyo Ila after years of exile, rebuilding its heart with wisdom and patience. And then came Orompoto, the warrior queen. History remembers her as one of the few female Alaafins. When the kingdom faced crisis, Orompoto rose to lead. She commanded the cavalry with brilliance, her strategies unmatched. In battle she was feared, as both king and warrior, proof that Oyo's throne was not bound by gender, but by destiny. With each generation, Oyo expanded. The Nupe to the north were subdued, the Borgu were brought under Oyo's power. Provinces fell into Oyo's orbit, bound to pay tribute. The empire grew, not only in land, but in wealth, strength, and prestige. To the west lay Dahomey, a young but fierce kingdom. Its kings, the Hugbaja and his successors, built a state of warriors and ritual power. They resisted Oyo's expansion with bravery, but against Oyo's cavalry, Dahomey faltered. After years of bloody conflict, Dahomey bowed to Oyo's might. From the early 18th century, Dahomey became a tributary state, forced to send annual offerings, slaves, cowries, cloth, and goods. The tribute was immense, a reminder of Oyo's supremacy. For over a century, Dahomey's kings humbled themselves before Oyo. It was said that in Abomey, the people trembled each year as the tribute was prepared. For failure to pay meant Oyo's horsemen would return. This conquest marked Oyo as a superpower, feared not only in Yorubaland, but across West Africa. Oyo's power rested not only on war, but on wealth. The empire sat astride the arteries of trade between the Niger River and the Atlantic coast, between the Sahara and the Gulf of Guinea. From the north came caravans with salt, cloth, horses, and beads. From the south came European ships offering firearms, liquor, and cowries. And from Oyo itself came slaves, ivory, kola nuts, and iron goods. The markets bustled. Oja Oba, the king's market, rang with voices. Women dominated trade, controlling prices, wealth, and power. They were the lifeblood of commerce, the pillars of Ojo's prosperity. By the 17th and 18th centuries, Ojo reached its zenith. Its palaces stretched wide, its rituals commanded awe, its festivals dazzled with fire and thunder. Praise singers called the Alaafin Master of Men, Lord of the Four Corners of the world. Oyo was a superpower. It ruled with iron and honor. But in the heart of its strength lay seeds of corruption, discontent, and betrayal. Seeds that would one day bring thunder crashing down. For every empire that rises, a day comes when power begins to slip. Oyo was no different. Behind the glory of cavalry and tribute, cracks had begun to form. The golden age was upon Oyo, and so were its greatest challenges. In the mid-18th century, Oyo reached the height of its prosperity. Under Alaafin Abiodun, who ruled for over 3 decades, the empire enjoyed an age of peace and trade. Where earlier kings like Alaafin Ojigi and Alaafin Onisili had gloried in war, Abiodun turned to diplomacy and commerce. Tribute flowed in steadily from Dahomey, from the Egbado corridor, and from countless provinces. The markets of Oyo thrived. Caravans carried kola, ivory, and slaves to the coast. In return, cowries, liquor, and firearms came inland. Wealth flowed through the hands of traders and chiefs, binding the empire in gold and iron. But while peace enriched Oyo, It also softened the discipline of its warriors. Cavalry that once thundered across the savannah grew idle. Soldiers became traders, merchants, and politicians. Prosperity carried within it the seeds of complacency. The empire was vast, too vast for the Alaafin to govern alone. To control distant provinces, Oyo relied on Ajeli, imperial agents who ruled in the king's name. In theory, they collected tribute, upheld Oyo's laws, and kept order. In reality, many Ajeli abused their power. They taxed the people harshly, seized wealth for themselves, and treated subject towns with cruelty. Resentment grew. Villages that once gave tribute with loyalty now whispered of rebellion. The empire's strength was becoming its weakness. The farther its reach, the less secure its grasp. Meanwhile, the balance of power at home was shifting. The Oyo Misi, the 7 great chiefs, grew bolder. They were guardians of the empire, a check on the Alaafin's authority. But ambition and rivalry began to poison the court. The unity that had built Oyo was cracking. After Abayadun's reign of peace, the throne became a seat of turmoil. His successors inherited not his wisdom, but the burdens he left behind. Civil wars broke out over succession. Brothers fought brothers. Generals betrayed their oaths. Chiefs schemed for influence. The power of the Alaafin declined, while the power of the chiefs rose. One by one, rulers fell, undone by palace intrigues, rebellion, or the pressure of enemies beyond Oyo's walls. The once great empire, though still wealthy, was bleeding from within. Then came Alaafin Aole, remembered not for triumph, but for tragedy. Betrayed by his chiefs, abandoned by his warriors, Aole was forced to accept the ancient judgment, an empty calabash, the sign that the Alaafin must take his own life. Before his death, he cursed the land. With bitter voice he declared, "My fathers destroyed the town with the sword. I shall destroy it with a curse. May the empire never be united again. May rebellion tear it apart. May the sons of Oyo never know peace." His words fell like fire, and in the years that followed, it seemed the curse took root. Provinces rebelled, chiefs grew treacherous, enemies watched and waited. The empire that had once thundered with cavalry now trembled on the edge of ruin. Oyo's golden age had passed. Ahead lay decline, chaos, and fire. In the early 19th century, a storm was gathering from the north. The Fulani Jihad, led by Usman Danfodio, swept across Hausaland. One after another, Hausa states fell under Fulani control. The shockwaves reached Oyo's borders. Provinces once loyal began to tremble. Islam spread with the sword, while Fulani cavalry, as swift as Oyo's once had been, threatened the empire's northern frontier. Oyo, weakened by years of internal strife, was no longer the invincible power it had been. The cavalry that had once shaken West Africa could not withstand the pressure from without and betrayal from within. The empire was tearing itself apart. Subject towns, weary of the Ajil's tyranny, rose in rebellion. Egba towns drove Oyo's agents out, declaring independence. Ilorin, once a loyal Oyo province, broke away under Afanya, the Arona Kakanfo, Oyo's general. Afanya allied with Fulani forces, betraying his homeland. Together they turned Ilorin into a Fulani emirate. What began as ambition became treason, and it was the wound from which Oyo never recovered. The very generals meant to defend the empire had become its destroyers. By the 1830s, the great city of Oyo Isle, the capital that had stood for centuries, faced its doom. Fulani raiders pressed from the north. Internal betrayal left its defenses weak. At last, the city burned. The palace, once home to mighty Alaafins, crumbled to ash. Survivors fled southward, carrying with them only memories and fragments of tradition. The empire that had ruled with thunder, wealth, and fear was gone. What remained were scattered towns, divided chiefs, and a people searching for safety in chaos. Yet Oyo did not vanish completely. Its people survived. They founded new towns in the forests. To the south, Ibadan rose as a city of warriors, forged from the refugees of empire. Abeokuta became a fortress for the Egba. New Oyo, or Oyo Atiba, carried on the line of the Alaafin, though its power was but a shadow of the past. The cavalry empire of the savannah was gone, but its culture, language, and traditions endured. The gods of Oyo, Sengo the Thunderer, Orunmila the Wise, Ogun the Pathfinder, still walked with their people. The Alaafin still sat on a throne, a living reminder of greatness lost, yet never forgotten. The story of Oyo is the story of rise and fall. From humble beginnings, it became a superpower, feared by kings, honored by traders, and remembered in legend. It built its empire on cavalry, diplomacy, and wealth. It fell through betrayal, pride, and the curse of disunity, yet its legacy remains. The Yoruba world still beats with the rhythm of Oyo. Its institutions of kingship, its markets, its music, its gods, all live on. The empire may have fallen, but the spirit of Oyo endures in every drumbeat, every festival, every song of the Yoruba people. This is the story of Oyo, the empire of thunder, the empire of fire, the empire whose name will never be forgotten. The Oyo Empire has fallen, but its story still lives, carried by its people, its culture, and its history. If this journey moved you, if this heritage matters to you, let it not end here. Tap like to honor the story, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and keep the conversation alive. Click subscribe so you never miss the next chapter of our shared history. And share this film so that the world may remember the Empire of Thunder.